everyone, and welcome to Season 2 of Maple's Host the Pro, where we talk with top talents about everything from marketing to business and so much more. Our guest today spotted a real-time marketing revolution in its infancy and wrote 5 books about it, including The New Rules of Marketing and PR, now in the 8th edition, with more than 425,000 copies sold in English and available in 29 languages from Albanian to Vietnamese. Now David says that a pendulum has swung too far in the direction of superficial online communication. Tech-weary and bot-worry people are hungry for true human connection. Organizations have learned to win by developing what David calls a fanocracy, the subject of his Wall Street Journal bestseller, tapping into the mindset that relationships with customers are more important than the products they sell to them. He's a massive live music fan, having been in 804 live shows since he was 15 years old, passionate about the Apollo lunar program, and he loves to surf but isn't very good at it. David Meerman Scott, welcome.
Thank you for that entirely too long introduction, but I appreciate it. It's great to be here.
I can totally make the short one, but I mean it's super interesting, and knowing where you come from is super important for knowing where you're going. So
yeah, there's some truth. There's some truth to that. I would agree with that. So thanks for that.
Sure. Besides, as a music lover, and you can see right here, I can relate.
Yeah. It's been a huge passion of mine since I was a teenager, and can't get enough of it. I love I love going to watch live music. I don't play music, but I love to watch it.
I think it kind of relates to the subject of fans and customers, and I mean, music connects people in ways that nothing else can, and it kind of has that thing, that bigger something that you belong to. So music is kind of the first brand, if we're looking at it from a different angle. So I love that.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. I was lucky enough to 2 weeks ago have a speaking engagement in South Korea, and Korean pop music, K-pop, is popular now all over the world. It's like super, super, super popular, and some of those bands get billions of views of their YouTube videos. And it's all about building fans, right? Because my daughter is a fan of K-pop music, and she lives in Boston. It's like, I don't know, 8,000 miles away from where this music is created. So it's super interesting to me that music has the ability to build fans of people all over the world.
That's great. So let's talk a little bit about your book, and let's talk about the title first. Fanocracy. Where is it coming from?
So I wanted to have a title of the book that had the word fan, F-A-N, in it. And I wanted to try to see if I could find a word, single word, where I could have the URL, the website address. And it took a long time to come up with the word fanocracy. And the basic idea of fanocracy, it's like democracy, autocracy. It's different forms essentially of government and organizing people. And I thought to myself, wow, what's cool about fandom is that when it becomes big, like Korean pop music becomes a fanocracy. It's people ruling their lives in a sense based on the thing that they're a fan of. So we came up, my daughter and I co-wrote the book, Reiko, and we came up with this word fanocracy. And so far, I'm glad that we spent the time. We looked at hundreds and hundreds of different titles that had the word fan in it. Most of them were terrible. A couple of them, other ones were okay, but I couldn't get the URL. So this works out really well. And then the subtitle is turning fans into customers and customers into fans. And that was another challenge to figure out how to describe the book in the form of a subtitle. And what's important about this idea of fandom is that you can have existing customers and then turn them into fans, or there can be people who are a fan of something and you can then turn them into a customer of yours. So super cool to have these various ways of building fans and using that as a way to grow business.
That's great. I want to explore that a little bit, because fans is kind of like a, a detached, I think, terminology in a way from marketing, because we use community and we use followers and we use customers. And I think that having the fan word as I'm a fan of a product kind of makes it even bigger to belong to that product. How do you see that? How do you see that coming? And also the vice versa. I mean, the fans into customers and the customers into fans. How's that working?
So I think you're right. It's much more than just being a customer. And one of the elements that, as we were doing the research, we found that's so important is that so many companies that just have customers, from the perspective of the customer, it's something that they can possibly switch and use somebody else for. However, when you become a fan of something, you're much less likely to switch. So let me give you an example of what I mean by that. So in the book, one of the examples that we share is an automobile insurance company, an auto insurance company, and they're called Haggerty. Haggerty Insurance is for people for classic cars, old cars, over 25 years old. And they're the leader now in classic car auto insurance because they've specifically built fans of their business rather than simply selling a product. So some of the ways that they build fans, they have a YouTube channel. It's got well over 1 million subscribers. They have a magazine that goes out 6 times a year. They go to auto shows where people are showing their classic cars, and they're there to meet with people who love classic cars. They make their data available on how much classic cars are worth. So in a sense, what they've done is they've built a huge community of people who love classic cars, and they become a fan of Haggerty Insurance. So if you think about it from the perspective of a pure commodity, one insurance company that insures your car is exactly the same as another insurance company because it's essentially the product of insuring your car. That's the way most people think of something like insurance. But Haggerty said, no, 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 this is going to be completely different. What we're going to do here is we're going to focus on the idea of building fans, and then that will mean that we can be the company that people want to do business, that they're eager to do business with. And then I'm actually a customer. I have a 1973 Land Rover. It's insured by Haggerty. If somebody came along and said, we'll do that insurance at a lower price, I wouldn't change because I'm a fan. And so that's the idea of how this concept works. Is it's a human relationship with customers. It's a relationship where people say, I like this company, or I love this company. And then they're much, much less willing to switch. They're much more willing to share with other people that they love that company, like I'm doing right now, telling you about a car insurance company. And I specifically really like the car insurance example because most people hate car insurance. Like, it's no fun to buy car insurance. It feels like you're just throwing your money away. And you never want to use the product because it means you crashed your car. I mean, how terrible is that? But here's a company that actually built fans in a category of product that everybody hates. So how cool is that? And I had a couple of chances to speak with McKeel Haggerty, who's the founder of the company. And this is exactly what they're doing. They're building fans. And they're doing really, really well. A couple of years ago, they actually went public on the New York Stock Exchange. So doing really, really well with their business.
Wow. Do you think it happened because of the ability to create that fan base, that big, I'll say, brand? Because I don't think it's the product itself that has made the fans. It's the story around it.
You're exactly right. Yeah, you're exactly right. Because the product is a commodity. Car insurance from one company is almost exactly the same as car insurance from another company. It's almost like airplane ride, If the seat is the same, the airplane is essentially getting you from one place to another. You have to compete. Sure, there's some airlines that compete on price, but there's others that compete in different ways. So if you build fans, and that's what Haggerty did, they specifically focused on all of the other things, not the insurance itself, but all of the other things that go into building fans. And now people love them and they're doing super, super well with it.
Do you think it's I mean, it takes a lot of creativity to be able to understand and to unlock that one thing that will help a company or a brand or a product kind of cycle around a subject that is not only the car insurance, but actually the car or the cars. Um, so it takes a lot of creativity. And do you think every company can do that? Do you think it's available for everyone?
I do. I do think it's available for everybody. And that's one of the reasons why I love talking about Haggerty Insurance, because it's a product everyone hates, car insurance. And so it doesn't have to be things people love. Like a lot of people talk about fandom around, say, Apple products like the iPhone. But it can even include something that people hate. Another example I like to share is we found a United States government agency. It's part of the government that has over 100 million fans. Who's that? It's NASA, right? And the NASA has something like 95 million followers on its Instagram feed. So they're doing a fabulous job of building fans, and they're part of the United States government. So I think that's super interesting. And we've found examples in many, 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 many different businesses, many different types of companies, nonprofits, government agencies, business to business, consumer brands, all kinds of different businesses. And so I believe 100% that any business can build fans. And it's about making a mindset shift that you're going to build humanity into your business, that you're going to create something that people will begin to appreciate and maybe even begin to love, to create something where people are eager to do business with you, that come back again and again and again and buy more from you, and they want to share with their friends. And I think any organization can do that. Any company, any person, anybody can do that.
Can you share some practices, like a practical thing that a company can do if they want to start creating that fan base around themselves? Do you have like a actual practical advice?
Sure. So something that's really simple that everyone can do literally right now today is take a look at how you're presenting your organization to the outside world. So that typically means a website, or if you have printed materials, whatever it might be. But look at how you're presenting your business to the outside world. So many companies that I see on their websites, they use stock photographs. They use these fake photos of people to represent either their customers or to represent their employees. So the first thing is, if you're using stock photographs to represent your customers or your employees, you're not building fans, because everybody sees through what a stock photo looks like. They look the same. They look fake. They don't look real. They doesn't look like real people. They're just models. So eliminate the stock photos. The second thing is, take a look at the words that you're using to talk about your business, to talk about who you are, to communicate to people who are your existing customers or your potential customers. And if it's very egocentric, in other words, always talking about what you do and how your products work, and especially if you're using these big made up words, and this is true in any language, so no matter what language your website is written in, it's true of any language. But in English, words like mission critical and cutting edge and best of breed and innovative, these sorts of overused words, I call them gobbledygook. And so you want to eliminate all this gobbledygook language. Another thing to be thinking about is, are you writing your information on your website and in your marketing materials from the perspective of your customer? And are you doing something that's unique and something that's focused on you? So, what a way to take a look at this is look at your website copy, the words that you use, the written language that you use, and remove your company name and put your competitor's company name in there. If it still makes sense, you're not building fans because you just have generic language in there that anybody can use. So there's lots of ways to build fans that might take longer, but this is something you can do literally today. You can swap out photographs, you can change the language, you can literally do that today as a start of building fans, because it's all about that human relationship.
That's actually a great exercise, taking out your brand name and checking if a competitor fits. That's wow, never thought of that. That's brilliant. And do you think later on, like, I'm thinking about brands that I know that have done things that have made me want to buy more from them. I mean, not maybe making me a super hyped fan, but let's say Adidas, they have like initiatives for like running for the ocean, stuff that they believe in, and then they have the shoes that are made from recycled materials that found in the bottom of the ocean. I mean, is that something that is also a part of that creating fan base?
Oh yeah, you've come up with a fabulous examples, because if you think about that running, running for the ocean, whatever it might be, what does that have to do with the products they sell? Not really that much. Yes, they provide clothing or shoes for running, but not really that much. But what it does is it gets people to think, and it builds those fans, and the idea of what materials the shoes or the clothing is made out of. Again, helping to build fans. This is, of course, for people who care about those things. If you don't care about the environment, well, then that's not necessarily for you. But maybe that brand isn't for you. So you've come up with a really interesting concept here. Is that when you're thinking about building fans, you have to recognize that the vast majority of people will not become your fans, and that's okay. You can just let them be. Everybody else in the world not becoming your fan is not a problem. If you can build a substantial number of fans that love you, you can have a great life, you can have a great business, and that's enough. Too many companies that I see focus on trying to get as many customers as possible, or trying to market in a generic way to everybody. And that just doesn't work in today's world. We're not in a mass market anymore. We're in tiny little niches now. And you focus on a niche, you focus on building fans in that niche. Classic car auto insurance, a great example of a small niche. And then you can build fans as a result. Or people who care about the environment and are also athletes. A small audience, much smaller than athletes in general, but wow, if you can grab that group of people and build fans around them, you've got a business for a long time.
And what about the other way around? Making your customers become your fan? Because I think that might be even harder to crack because they already bought your product. So in some way, they know who you are, they know the product, and now you kind of need to prove yourself.
Yeah, and I think you might be right. In many ways, it might be harder. But what I think it comes down to, and all the research that we did on this topic, is how can you bring humanity and a human approach to the business? So I'm thinking about, for example, if you have to call a company to get service, for example, and you can't reach a human being, and you have to go through, typing all these numbers on your phone, and you have to remember your customer number. That is not a way to build fans. However, if you're able to reach somebody and a human being listens to your problem, helps to answer that problem, that is a great way to build fans. Another thing to think about is in the business to business world, B2B companies like software companies and so on, bringing customers together to be to be together in the same room or the same conference center is a great way to build fans, because we humans all like to be together with other people who are like us, like-minded people. And that actually goes back tens of thousands of years for us as human beings, because that's when we're safe and comfortable. So if you can, as a business to business company, and maybe even consumer brands too, but think about a business to business company that can then bring their customers or potential customers together, have a conference where, just by virtue of being at the conference and having the badge, you know you have something in common with that person, and you end up having a good time learning something, and that rubs off on the company and people become fans. So you're turning them from customers to fans. And that human connection of having a conference is a great way. One of my favorite examples of that is a company called HubSpot. I happen to be on the advisory board of HubSpot. I've been on the advisory board since the beginning, 2007. So that's like 16 years, 17 years now. I've been on their advisory board. They have their inbound conference in Boston every year. 25,000 people attend in person when in the biggest events, and virtually another 100,000 people, I think, attended this year. And these people are all fans of HubSpot. They want to be a part of that event, of that conference, of the inbound conference. And then they're much more likely to continue to be a customer when they recognize that it's more than just the software product that HubSpot provides. They do marketing and sales and customer support software. It's much more than the software. It's also the ability to meet other HubSpot customers, to learn through HubSpot, and to be a part of the HubSpot community.
That's really cool. What is, like, in your, because you wrote the book, what is your favorite part or insight that you came to when writing the book?
So something that was really interesting with Fanocracy, this is the English language version, it's in a number of other languages as well, was that I wrote it with my daughter Reiko. And when we were writing it, she was in her mid-20s. And she's an emergency room doctor now. And when she was writing it with me, she was in medical school. And we have a completely different background. I'm her father, so I'm a generation older. I love the Grateful Dead. I love live music. Reiko loves Harry Potter. She loves Korean pop music. Reiko is an emergency room doctor. I am not a doctor. I don't think like a doctor. She's half Japanese. I'm 100% American. So we're completely different people, yet our ideas around fandom are the same. So that's why we decided to write the book together, is because we come at different angles on the same kind of questions. And she identified a number of things that she wrote about in her parts of the book that I find fascinating. One of my favorite examples is that once you put a product or service out into the marketplace, it no longer belongs to you, it belongs to the fans. And I think a lot of companies kind of misunderstand this idea. So if you think about it, once you put a product out there, it doesn't belong to you. It belongs to your customers. It belongs to your fans. And there's too many companies who try to control the messages. They try to control the way that people think about their products and services, the language they use, and so on. But the better way is let the fandom blossom. Let people talk about you and your products and services. Let them create user groups if they want. You don't have to create the user group. Let somebody else create the user group. Let other people blog about what you do. Celebrate the fact that people want to share your ideas. Celebrate the idea that people want to review your products on review sites. And let all of those ideas spread, because you cannot control it. So don't even try.
Well, you've mentioned this, so this was written some time ago. What have changed since you wrote the book?
The book was we were writing towards the end of 2018, 2019. The book actually came out in January 2020. And you know what happened 2 months later, right? The pandemic hit. So the book
Wow.
actually launched in January, and in March the whole world shut down. We had a whole bunch of talks booked around the world to talk about fanocracy, so they were either canceled or went virtual. So that was a huge change. But the massive shift that has happened in our world since fanocracy came out is the rise of artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence powered social networking feeds, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and so on. And also AI in the form of chatbots like ChatGPT as ways to find information. So those two things have changed a lot. Now, in the case of social networks like Facebook, the content that they deliver to people is more and more generated through artificial intelligence. And unfortunately, I think that the Facebook algorithm is super dangerous. I think it's bad for humanity. I think it's one of the most destructive things out there. And the reason is because it puts people into groups based on the things that they click on, because Facebook's algorithm is rewarding the time that you spend on the Facebook network. This is also true of Instagram and YouTube and other social networks, but it's especially prevalent with Facebook. And so if you love Korean pop music, you get more Korean pop music content. That's okay. But if you start to click on things like hate speech or conspiracy theories or other dangerous sorts of topics, you get more and more of that content. So I think that the idea of fandom, the idea of fanocracy, the idea of a human relationship with people is kind of the opposite of artificial intelligence driven algorithms. So on one hand, you've got AI driving what people see. On the other hand, you've got humans reacting and commenting and being a part of humanity. And I think more and more people are recognizing that they want to be part of a human approach. They want to meet people in person. They want to go to that conference. They want to go to that run that you talked about. They want to meet with other classic car collectors. They want to go to the K-pop concert. And that human approach to business, I think, will take any organization that grabs it will take them a long way. And yeah, artificial intelligence important to understand, maybe deploy it in your business, but don't think that it's a substitute for humanity. It's not. And as everyone else is trying to focus on AI and you're focused on humanity, I think you will grow fans when the other guys don't.
That's great insights. I also think that there's a we are now at a point where AI and the idea of community are both very, very strong, and I think COVID has a lot to do with it in a positive way, because it got us back to home, back to work from home, back to socialize with our neighbors and the people that are closer to us. So it's two separate things, and it's the AI, the robots, and the humanity. And I think the most interesting thing will be what happens when we will be able to combine the both for the better, um, for the benefit of the humanity and not the opposite.
I think you're right. COVID has been really good for me because um, when COVID hit, all my speaking engagements were canceled, and that allowed me to have a chance to spend lots of time with my family, lots of time doing the things I love, like camping and hiking and surfing. And then I thought to myself, wow, this is kind of interesting. On one hand, I'm doing things that are more at home and more actually connecting with people while I'm surfing or while I'm camping or while I'm hiking or while I'm with my family. And it was bringing back to me this idea of having those human connections. And sure, I like to get on an airplane and deliver a speech. and in-person speaking has come back in a big way over the last year or so. And now I recognize that it's kind of a combination. It's as you said, we've got this human approach to business. We've got the idea of people wanting to be together with other people, especially after COVID made it more difficult to do that. But now AI is transforming so many businesses. We have to understand it, and I think it's a combination of both. I think you can't devote 100% to AI because you need that human relationship.
David, thank you so much. It was a real pleasure talking to you. Anything else do you want to say before we finish our interview?
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on. Yeah, the last thing is, one of the things that we learned as we were digging into this idea of fandom is the idea that people are unbelievably passionate about those things that they love. I love rock music. I love to surf. Reiko loves K-pop. Reiko loves Harry Potter. And the idea of what the thing that you love, when you share that with other people, people want to be a part of what you're doing. They're attracted to people who have passion. So the more you can bring your passions into your professional life, the more fans you will build. It's fun. The idea of building a business around this idea of fandom is super fun and super interesting, and I think it makes business fun again, which I actually kind of love. So thanks for having me on to be able to talk about these ideas.
Thank you so much, David Meerman Scott. Thank you for sharing your insights today. Best of luck.
My pleasure. Thanks so much.